is going to be a value-added sermon. So anybody who has a costume on, who wouldn't mind saying a couple things about what the costume means, could you come here? Well, what can you tell us about your costume and why you picked it?
This is Nobara Kugisaki from Jujutsu Kaisen, and she fights curses.
Nice.
I just chose this because I just thought of it.
You just love mermaids? Yes, and why do you love them?
They're a part of two worlds, ocean and land.
Oh, do you love that? They're part of two worlds, ocean and land. I didn't prompt that. Excellent. Anything else you want to say about these costumes?
No, thank you.
They're both beautiful, thank you. Anybody else? Oh, there's Dory. You may be familiar with the movie Coco, a Pixar movie from 2017. Coco is a Mexican boy with a musical gift, but he lives in a family that has banned music from their lives because they believe it was music that broke the family up 3 generations ago. Coco is musically talented. He wants to play music, as did his great-great-grandfather before he left the family. On Coco's journey to find his talented great-great-grandfather, Coco discovers that this man, who is in the land of the dead, is in great danger. Because everyone who knew him in the land of the living is starting to forget him. They don't put his picture on the ofrenda for the Dia de los Muertos. Can you see that we have an altar up here? Well, I'm going to ask Claire, who made this, to come and talk to us about it. And I'm going to show it to you while she talks to you. Claire, tell us about this.
All right, so
Tell us what's in it.
So it is for my grandma, my great-grandma, and I glued little pieces of Hershey's Kisses to it because what I remember about her is she always had a little chocolate at the corner of her mouth because she loved it so much. I also had flowers on it because it was beautiful like she was.
You're killing me. Yes, and when you look at this and remember her, what happens to you?
I mean, I guess it just sparks her memory.
Yeah. Are you like your grandmother or your great-grandmother in some way?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit how? I don't see any chocolate in her face.
Don't worry, it's there at times.
Oh.
Yeah.
How else are you like her?
Well, I guess she was very creative. So I guess I was
Good
kind
for
of,
that, yes.
you could say.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this and sharing it.
Sure.
Okay. So, Coco's family took the picture away, never put the pictures up at the Dia de los Muertos. They don't even talk about him. And above all, they don't play his music. And because they don't remember him and they don't play his music, Coco begins to wonder how he, with his talent, can fit in to his family and his village. In the end, Coco not only redeems the memory of his great-great-grandfather, but he also brings music to life again. His playing and singing revive the entire village where his family now lives. The movie and the music are wonderful, but the idea that we remember our ancestors because we embody them in some way is even more powerful. That our ancestors are dead is not significant. When we hear on Ash Wednesday that we are dust and will return to dust, it is not a condemnation of the dust. It is a reminder that we are all, living or dead, part of the great surge toward unity with God. Nothing is wasted in this journey. The dust itself is part of all that was and all that is and all that will ever be. We are all living and dead, becoming and becoming and becoming part of the Trinity that birthed us. Think about it with me. We are called forth from the great waters of the universe, crawling out of the mother swamp. When we die, we return to the universe in millions of energetic particles, each the same, to reconnect at some time in some way with God. And we have a part in shaping that, because in loving our neighbors, we recreate that relationship from which we ourselves were created. Does it make any sense then that we should spend so much of our time on what divides us? If taking care of each other will hasten us to the kingdom of heaven, what else is important? Coco has to buck family tradition to return to making his music. He has to refuse to become a shoemaker because he's so good at music making and no good at shoemaking. And in the end, it's his music which brings joy and harmony to his family and their neighbors. In this way, he not only remembers the ancestor, but he also lives into the power of creativity, which is the godliness inside him. He answers the invitation of the Spirit to move forward toward wholeness with everything, like a water droplet running down the window. That talent joins with other talents, other gifts, other dreams, and becomes a river of healing and creativity. In the lections today, the Israelites, on the brink of going to Canaan, hear the words of Moses, who gives them the admonition to remember always, in every way, that God is the one who gave them life, who sustained them in exile, and who carries them now into the promised land. There is one God from whom all things have come and to whom all things will return. Not only are they to remember that, but they are to live like their neighbors, dependent on their love. We hear the same message in the words of the scribe who talks with Jesus in the gospel. We hear that love is far more important than burning sacrifices. Today, the Eve of All Hallows is the day on which we stop to realize and celebrate that each of us, that all of us together, have been pulled forth from the womb of the Trinity into the universe as part of the vast network of all created things. We are just as surely a part of the ancestors who came before us as we are of the children who live after us. In our bodies, we carry the traces of the things our ancestors did, which opened the way of love. We have this day, the Eve of All Saints' Day, to remember what we have inherited and to choose how to use it, adding our own gifts. We have this day to think about how it is that we will share these things with our neighbors in the service of love. So, what would it be like if we woke up tomorrow and thought, my neighbor needs my love more than he or she or they need anything else? What would it be like to wake up and know that we could count on the love of our neighbors if we needed it? What would it be like if when we thought about how to organize ourselves as a city or a state or a nation, we asked ourselves, what would help us love God most? And what does it mean to be neighborly in this context? What would it mean if we asked ourselves what each of us could do to bring the solution of any need our neighbors neighbors faced. Yeah, these are my dreams. And they are so very far from the way things work. And yet, all change starts with imagining how things could be different, does it not? My friends, our eyes and ears and hands have been working too hard. It is time for us to stop for a while, to look up at the stars, to listen to the music of the wind in the trees, to feel the wet rain running through your fingers. Love is there, in the stars and the wind and the rain and the trees. Maybe this week we can breathe the soft autumn air and hear the voices of our ancestors whose love brought us here. Maybe this week we can dream of what it would be like to live in God's street with all our neighbors.